I still remember the first crackle of leaves under my boots and the pine-scented wind whispering secrets into my ears. If I had known what waited at the top of Hollow Hills, I would have burned my camping gear that day and never looked back. But I was 19, stubborn, and desperate to prove I could survive one weekend without cell service or the comforts of civilization. That mistake cost me everything. It started as a harmless escape. My roommate, Julia, and I were planning a simple camping trip. She backed out at the last minute. Her grandmother fell ill or something. But I was already packed. I didn't want to waste the weekend. Solitude had always been peaceful for me. Until I met the thing in the forest. The locals had warned me not to go up Hollow Hills alone. They told stories in hushed tones of campers who wandered off and never returned, of shadows moving against the trees even when there was no wind, and of a woman's voice crying in the dead of night long after everyone else had left. I thought it was folklore, just rural superstition. I laughed it off. The base of the hill was quiet. Too quiet. I parked my Jeep near a rusty trailhead marked Cedar Ridge, the official hiking path. But I wasn't heading there. My goal was the summit, Widow's Peak, a spot I'd read about in some obscure Reddit post. No trail, no signs, just coordinates. The post said the view was worth the climb. They didn't mention the cold breath on the back of your neck when you're alone, or the figure that sometimes followed you from just out of sight. By the time I reached the halfway point, night was inching closer. I set up camp beside a moss-covered boulder, its shape oddly like a crouching person. The air felt wrong, like it hadn't moved in decades. I shrugged off the feeling and lit a fire. The dancing flames felt like company, like a ward against whatever lived deeper in those woods. I cooked some noodles, wrote in my journal, and tried to ignore the strange pattern of bird silence around me. Around midnight, I heard it. A scream. A woman's scream, far but sharp, like it had been ripped from her throat. I froze. Then it stopped. No echo, just silence again. I convinced myself it was an animal, a fox maybe. But that night, as I lay inside my tent, I heard something breathe outside. Slow, heavy, raspy. Inhale, pause, exhale. Then nails or claws scraping softly along the nylon wall. I didn't dare move. Didn't make a sound. Eventually, the noises stopped. I must have fallen asleep at some point because I woke up at dawn, throat dry, heart pounding. My tent flap was open. I never leave it open. The morning sun filtered through the dense canopy, casting strange, skeletal shadows across my campsite. Everything was exactly where I'd left it, except for the firewood. It had been scattered in a perfect circle around my tent, as if someone, or something, had danced around me in the night. Each piece of wood pointed toward the center, toward me. I tried to laugh. Maybe an animal had done it. A raccoon? A bear? But deep down, I knew no animal arranged things that deliberately. Still, I told myself I was fine. I packed up, tightened my laces, and pushed further up the slope, determined to reach Widow's Peak. The trees grew denser, and with every step, the forest got quieter. Not peacefully quiet, but unnervingly still, like nature was holding its breath. By noon, I reached a flat open patch littered with small rock cairns, carefully stacked stones in little towers. There were dozens of them all around me, surrounding a half-collapsed wooden structure that looked like an old hunter's shack. I almost turned back then. But curiosity is dangerous. I walked toward the shack. The air grew colder, unnaturally so. My breath came out in fog, though it was June. The wooden door creaked open on its own. Inside, dust coated everything. Cobwebs clung to the corners like gray veins. In the center of the floor was a trap door,
partially covered by a moldy blanket, and carved into the walls, symbols, circles within circles, jagged spirals, eye-shaped markings, all scratched in with something sharp. Then I heard it again, the scream. This time it was closer, clearer. It wasn't an animal. It was a woman, and it sounded like she was begging. My blood went cold. I backed away from the shack, stumbled over one of the rock cairns, and fell. My hand landed on something soft. Fabric. It was a shirt, faded and torn, with a name tag sewn on the collar. Julia. My heart stopped. I hadn't told anyone where I was going. Julia didn't even know about Widow's Peak, did she? I grabbed the shirt and ran. I didn't know where to go, only that I had to get away from that shack. As I pushed through the forest, branches snagged my jacket like fingers, the air humming with something unseen. Eventually, I found a clearing. I dropped to my knees, panting, and opened my pack for water. That's when I noticed the photo. It hadn't been there before. Tucked between my map and flashlight was a Polaroid, aged and yellowing. I pulled it out with trembling fingers. It showed me, asleep, in my tent from the night before. Who had taken it? I spun around. The woods were empty. The silence was louder than ever. I should have turned back, should have scrambled down that hill, never looked back, never returned. But something made me stay. A pull, a whisper in the back of my mind that said, "You haven't seen the worst yet." And I hadn't. That night, I camped again. I had no choice. The climb back in the dark was suicide. I built a fire, bigger this time, and kept my knife beside me. I didn't sleep. I just stared into the flames, listening. At around 2 a.m., I heard her voice, not screaming this time, whispering. Emily. My name, drawn out, soft as breath, sliding through the trees. Then I saw her, a girl, standing at the edge of the firelight, pale, drenched, mouth moving soundlessly. Her eyes were gone, just empty holes that seemed to leak black tears. She lifted a hand, pointed to the hilltop, then vanished.
I didn't sleep. Not a second. The moment the girl vanished into the darkness, I sat frozen by the fire, hands trembling, staring into the place where she had stood. Her face had no expression. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Only her voice had echoed inside my head. And her eyes, or whatever had once been her eyes, they haunted me long after she was gone. At first light, I broke camp with shaking fingers. Every sound, every gust of wind, every creak of bark felt like footsteps just behind me. The forest no longer felt like nature. It felt aware. Something was watching me. I followed the direction she had pointed, upward, toward Widow's Peak. The trees changed as I climbed. They twisted, arched unnaturally, like they were leaning away from something above. The ground was patchy and dead in places, soft as rot in others. Every few steps, I'd find feathers, blackened, wet ones, littered along the trail. Not fallen from birds, plucked, arranged. I reached another clearing by midday. At the center stood an ancient tree, taller than the rest, split down the middle like lightning had struck it. But it wasn't burnt. It was bleeding. Thick, black sap oozed from the wound, staining the ground. I stepped closer. Something was carved into the bark. Names. Dozens of names. My fingers hovered over one carved in larger letters than the rest. Emily Carter. My knees buckled. That was my name, my full name. I hadn't told anyone I was coming here. No one. How did it get there? And then just below it, a date. June 15th, 2024. Yesterday. The date I arrived. My breath caught in my throat. I backed away, slowly, cautiously. And that's when I saw it. A figure. Not moving, not breathing. Just there. Standing deep in the tree line, half-shadowed. It had no face, just smooth, gray skin where a face should be. Its head tilted slightly, unnaturally, like it was trying to listen without ears. I ran. Branches whipped across my face, roots nearly tripped me. The forest suddenly felt alive, reaching, grabbing, warning me. I don't know how long I ran. Time became meaningless. Eventually, I collapsed near a rocky ridge, breath gone, body aching. That's when I realized the forest had gone white. Fog. Thick and cold, spilling across the ground like it was poured there. I could barely see a few feet in front of me. My limbs trembled with cold and fear. Then I heard the click. A camera shutter. Click. Click. Something, was taking pictures. I turned wildly, flashlight cutting through the fog, but nothing was there. Just trees and silence and another photo. Lying at my feet, fresh, still warm like it had just been printed. It showed me again, bent over the tree, reading the carving, but the figure in the background, it hadn't been there. I swear it hadn't. It was close behind me, too close. Its hands were reaching for me in the photo, but I hadn't felt them. I hadn't heard it. Yet, it had been there. I screamed. This time, something answered. From the fog, a chorus of voices rose. Whispers, dozens, hundreds, all overlapping. Some said my name, some begged, some laughed, and one whispered right in my ear, so close I felt its breath. She's waiting at the top. I don't remember how I got out of that fog. I remember running, falling, tearing my hands open on rocks and thorns. I remember screaming, but only inside my head because I was too afraid to make a sound. But the fog never followed me past a certain point. It stopped. Abruptly, at the edge of a narrow trail lined with jagged stones. The air smelled of ash and iron. I looked up. I had reached the summit, Widow's Peak. The sky here was gray, heavy, oppressive, as if the clouds were pressing down on the earth. No birds, no wind, just in a natural stillness that made every sound I made feel wrong. The top of the hill was almost perfectly flat, as though something had carved it. A massive stone altar sat in the center, cracked but intact. Symbols, those same spirals and eyes from the shack, were burned into its surface. They pulsed faintly, as if reacting to me. At first, I didn't see her. But then she rose, slowly, from behind the altar. The girl. The same ghostly figure I'd seen in the woods. Pale, drenched. Her empty eyes stared straight through me. Her mouth opened. And this time, I heard her. "Help me." Her voice was brittle, broken. It sounded like it came from beneath the ground. She stepped toward me, and I took a step back. But she didn't move like a person. Her legs bent the wrong way. Her hair floated slightly as if she were underwater. "Don't leave me here," she said, her voice cracking. Who are you?" I choked out. She didn't answer. She pointed behind me. I turned. And everything changed. There were others. Dozens of them. Standing silently around the peak, just at the tree line. Men, women, children, all pale, all hollow-eyed, all watching. Every one of them had the same stitched mouth, except the girl. "Why me?" I whispered. She stepped closer. "Because you came. Because you heard us." Then her mouth twisted into something like a smile, but it wasn't joy. It was sorrow, a deep, ancient sadness. "You can leave, but someone has to stay." I backed away. My boot slipped on the stone and I fell, landing hard on the altar. A burst of air hit me, cold and sharp, and for a moment I saw everything. Flashes. A woman in white screaming as she's dragged across this very stone. Children crying in the dark beneath the ground. A faceless figure placing offerings, bones, feathers, blood, into the mouth of a stone well hidden beneath the altar. A deal. A ritual. A price. I screamed. The girl placed her hand on my shoulder. "You saw it," she whispered. "Now they see you." Behind me, the stitched-mouth figures moved. Closer. Their mouths were sewn shut to keep them from calling out. To keep them from warning others. And I was now one of them. Unless. I turned, ran. Fled down the side of the hill, branches slicing me open, the girl's voice echoing behind me. "Someone has to stay." I ran. I didn't stop. My legs barely felt real anymore, just pistons firing on terror. My lungs burned. My throat was raw from silent screams. I don't remember how I made it back to the trailhead, only that I did. My Jeep was still there, coated in a fine layer of ash. But the forest was wrong. The trees were closer. I felt them pressing in, watching, breathing. My fingers shook as I jammed the keys into the ignition. The engine roared. I drove like the devil was behind me. Maybe he was. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Not until I hit the highway. Then I screamed. There was something in the back seat. A Polaroid. Face down. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. I knew what it showed. I threw it out the window, but it didn't matter, because when I got home, there were more of them. Taped to my bathroom mirror, slipped beneath my pillow, in my purse, Every one of them was me, sleeping, crying, running, and in every one, behind me, her, that girl, that thing, smiling. I tried to tell people, the police, a therapist, Julia, when she finally called, completely confused. She'd never gone missing. She'd never owned that shirt I found. Nobody believed me. My parents said I was overworked. My friends told me to stop watching horror movies alone. The therapist gave me pills. None of it helped. Because at night, I'd hear it. That slow, cold breathing. From the closet. From under the bed. From inside the walls. And when I finally worked up the courage to open the closet one night, I found another photo. This time, it was a mirror selfie, but I had never taken it. In it, I had no eyes. Weeks passed. The dreams started. Always the same. The hill, the fog, the stitched-mouth people closing in, and the altar. Every time I woke up screaming, I found a new mark on my body. Thin lines, like stitches, running along my ribs, my legs, the back of my neck. They were sewing me in, sewing me shut. So I went back. I had to go back. Maybe I thought I could finish it, destroy the altar, burn the tree, demand answers. But the moment I stepped onto the trail again, I realized the truth. I had never really left. The world outside the hills was their dream, their illusion. I had been walking inside their curse the entire time. I climbed again. No food, no water, no fear. Just silence. And when I reached the summit this time, the stitched-mouth people were already waiting. They parted as I walked between them, to the altar, to her. The girl smiled. She reached out, and this time, I took her hand. She leaned close and whispered in my ear, "Someone has to stay." That was 5 years ago. Now, I'm the one standing at the tree line, watching, waiting. And last night, I saw you. Yes, you. You clicked on something you shouldn't have, read something cursed, heard a name whispered when you were alone. That was me. I'm in your mirrors now, and in your closet, and when you go to sleep tonight. Don't dream of hills, because someone has to stay. And it's your turn now.